Hey, this is Zebra. This is a follow-up video to the Pitchmap video that I made 3 weeks ago. I have definitely modified the racks into a 7th iteration, and I'm going to show you how I made this. Provide links. There's 2 racks. There's one in Ableton and one in FL Studio. They have the same amount of control, mostly. I think the FL Studio one is a bit more unsatisfactory to what I wanted, but it's fine. If you have the option to download these because you have the plugins that they use, please do that, because you should definitely not spend like 30 minutes trying to make these racks because they are a pain in the ass to make. That's kind of it. On with the video. So here's the pitch map rack that I've made. I've now iterated it 7 times. Last video I only showed 2. And I can actually review how those 2 racks used to work by building them again. And also, I think I was a bit confusing in my explanation, so we can just show you how I did it, basically. The original idea was just that you use phase cancellation to remove any notes that are not in the scale that you give it. So, for example, if I was just to, put a peak down on linear phase mode, and then invert the polarity of the rack, then you essentially create a system where it will just take out the notes that you want it to be. So like you would put like a chord in there, like for example, a D sharp minor. And then you just like do that for your entire scale frequency wise. And I'm probably not doing the best job at explaining this because I'm not going to actually make anything like the thing I did before. But that's like the idea behind how the pitch map rack worked. It was very primitive in terms of how you would make it, and so I've come now with more of how Pitchmap actually works, where you get to choose what notes you want in your scale and to pitch to your scale. And we also have an actual thing that makes it kind of like similar to how Pitchmap sounds. And I will show you how to build this in Ableton and FL Studio. So let's just start by building it. The simplified version of it was where you pitch shift things, and then if you want like really high quality, you would frequency shift each individual note. The frequency shifting method took, I think, like 42 instances of Pro Q3, and that is definitely enough to explode really anyone's CPU. So I'm gonna go and show you real quick how you can like make your computer not die whenever you load one of these racks. It's in plugins, auto open plugin windows, turn that off. That's how you get that, to not blow up your CPU, because this has 24 instances of Pitchmap, or not Pitchmap, Pro Q3. Anyway, let's get into how you build this. So I'm gonna start by making a rack very similarly to how I did before. I did forget to say also, you only really need 2 plugins here. You just need a linear phase EQ and a pitch shifter. Those are the only things you need. So we'll start with Pro Q3. We're going to start on the note B if you're on Pro Q3, just because that is the one note after the highest note you can get. This is the highest note Pro Q3 will allow you to go to. It only goes to that frequency. Don't worry about it. It's not important. Set these to bells, and you can, just put them to the highest Q they can go. And, that's basically the entire idea behind this, right? Make sure that you turn on the thing that flips polarity, and to put this on linear phase, low quality. This essentially changes the quality of the linear phase things, and it will kill your CPU, basically. And also, it also will just make a lot of latency. It makes a lot of latency. That's it. So we'll turn this off. And now if I've done this correctly, it isolates the note B. So what we need to do is, if we're going to make the electrify knob, the only reason that it has that effect is because of the filter slope. If you did 92 dB octave, that's like very accurately pulling out the notes. 12 dB octave. It adds a lot of dry signal in, basically. That's the best way I can describe it. The way you get this to work is you just click on that, and then you have that. Assign these to the macro. Okay. So now we have that, and so this macro here controls the bandwidth. It says brick wall right here. It doesn't actually go to brick wall, so don't worry about that. And then also configure the quality of it if you want to. Processing resolution, it can go from low to maximum. So you kind of have like a few settings there if you really must. So there we go. We're gonna call this the frequency pull. This is like a tiny piece of the device that we're gonna be working on. Next thing we need to do is create a module that will pitch things. I wanted to display the actual values that you're pitch shifting by. So the best way to do that, sadly, is just to make 4 iterations of it. Yeah, so we'll just start by mapping the values that we want to. Map the, don't actually touch the pitch and put it to a macro. Instead, take these 2 values and put them into the macro, because we're gonna just duplicate this. And also, we're gonna need to make another macro on the chain selector, and make the maximum on the chain selector go to 3. Here we go. And so now we're gonna duplicate this patch multiple times. So now we have another pitch shifter. So we're gonna close this one. This one's gonna be set to +1 semitone. Duplicate that. This one is gonna be set to +2. Duplicate it again. It did not duplicate. There we go. Set this one to +3. So now we have a little module that we can control. And make sure you set these to individual like things inside the chain. So at 0, no pitch shift is applied. And then it goes +3 to whatever. Cool. We're gonna call this the pitch shifter. Cool. We can close that. We only really need to see this. There you go. We have now the electrify knob and grain size. Higher grain size will create a more diffuse effect. Lower ones will create some like weird, like clicky stuff in your low end, so you probably want this around here. From personal testing, actually, even lower. You want this to be around like 18 milliseconds. Somewhere around there. So, anyway, getting off like a sidetracked and everything. Group these 2. Now, we're gonna open the audio effect track. We're gonna make 16 macros. This one is gonna be the electrify. This one will be the CPU killer. In other words, the processing. This is grain size. This is the latency compensation. So we're just gonna map this there. Electrifying, CPU killer, grain size, latency compensation. Cool. Now, where you have 12 extra macros, 1 for every note, and we're gonna make a chain basically. So this is the note B that we've pulled out. So we're going to label the chain B. And we're going to map the, that's annoying. I'm going to have to like look over. Maybe I should have put the chain selector macro on the first one, but it's fine. It's going to take like 2 extra seconds for everything. We're going to label this one B shift. Cool. Now duplicate this entire thing. We're going to do this for every 12th note of the scale. So we're going to now label this one C. We're going to put this up here to C shift. That's not shift. And then make sure that you also change the note that this is pulling out to C, like that. This is why I like to use ProQ, because you actually can snap all the notes to what you want them to be. And then also make sure that you've mapped this pitch knob to the right thing. Because now we've pulled out 2 notes. We've pulled out B and C, and we can pitch these 2 notes around. So C can now be pitched up to C sharp. And now you hear like a major second. Or you can do like a major third. That's really the main idea here. And we have to do this for all 12 notes of the scale. This rank right here actually uses 24 notes because I used quarter tones as well, pitching them down to the A440 12 note scale, the chromatic scale thing. There's a reason that you'd want to use the quarter tones, because it picks up more information and pushes them to whatever. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention. Map the gain of all of these to the electrify, because the electrify, when it's at 0, the sound gets like twice as loud. So we're gonna reduce all of these by twice the gain. And the electrify, when it's at full, gets a bit quieter, so we can compensate by boosting it by 1 dB. Cool. So now you can actually see that when we up the gain, it does compensate, just making it a bit easier for post-processing, because we like that. Map the pitch from C sharp to macro 4. Rename this to C sharp shift. And then make sure that you set the notes that this picks up to C sharp. And then you basically just repeat this over and over again. I'll do 2 more notes so you get to see how this works, and then I'll show you how you can do quarter tones as well. Because the quarter tones, you have to deal things slightly differently. It's not too much of a difference, but you'll see. Now let's do some quarter tones. So essentially, if you're gonna do the entire thing, let's just say that you've set all 12 notes of the scale. What we will do is now do one of the notes for every single one of them. So we'll do minus 50 cents for each of these. So B minus 50, like that. So what we have to do is, this is a bit painful to do, but so you're gonna have to set the frequency that this pulls out to B minus 50 or A plus 50. It doesn't really matter, they're the same note. We'll just say that's there. And then switch the pitch shifting numbers. I should have labeled how these are pitch shifting it. It's not a big deal. But so now, this note, the minus 50, is 50 cents lower than what we want it to be when it goes to the thing. So what we're gonna do is set the first frequency or pitch shifter to 0.5. Now it's getting 50 cents higher. This one is going to be essentially added. All of these pitch shifters are going to be like adding 50 cents to it because we're pulling out notes that are. I forgot to do this one. There. And there. There we go. So now we've taken the note B, I guess it's B half flat. And so now this gets shifted to be in the same note that B is in. This is literally only for like higher sound quality, but it doubles your computation. So if you don't want to like do that, the fix is actually very simple. You just go into this rack, you delete this, you delete this, you delete this. The difference between like the sound is not too big of a difference. Compare that to the rack that we had earlier. I might just bring it in again. As you see, this is a still quite CPU intense rack. And if you really don't like that, you should just probably buy Pitchmap. It's using 30% of the CPU. Okay, so after a bit of head scratching, I did figure it out. So let's just get into it. So I'm using the trial for FL Studio, which is why I may be doing some things a bit odd, but don't worry about it. We will go through this together. So here's the patcher. I'm gonna rename this to Zebra's Pitch Map Simulator. And I'm putting this inside of a patcher because the thing won't actually let me save it. So I have to put it inside of another patcher to save the preset. Don't worry about that. You can just skip the part where I'm putting patcher set inside of a patcher. So let's just go into it. I'm going to load up another patcher because this will just make my life easier for copying and pasting. So here's the patcher. And inside of here is going to be the same thing that we've done before, where you will take your EQ, send it into a pitch shifter, like so. Now, we need to add first the knob that controls the pitch. We're going to need 2 formula controllers. Set this to the pitch, just like so. So the first one is going to snap our knob to the values we want, because if you were to look at the actual pitch shifter, it's like going crazy above what we want it to go to. So we're just gonna do the same range that we had earlier, but you can totally do a different range, but you're gonna have to do the math on your own because this was enough head scratching for me. So just set this to step increment, and B is gonna go to 0.125. There we go. And if I did this correctly, Let's open the pitch shifter. Start on 0, go to 1, 2, and 3. There we go. That's the basic thing. As for the second knob or macro, right here, we're just gonna do that. Activate. There we go. Send this into the Pro Q3. And yeah, we're gonna set this to band 1 shape, no, slope. We're gonna do this for all of them. Let's open the Pro Q3 and make sure this works. Perfect. And we also have our pitch shifter. Okay, that's like literally the things we want. This is now the patcher inside here. We got that. We only need to do 2 more things, which is the grain size. So put this here. The knob doesn't matter, of course. We're just gonna make this quick and dirty. Map grain size, and then another one for the what was it, latency compensation. And just to see, because I'm curious, which way does the latency compensation go? So yeah, makes sense. Now we gotta name these accordingly, because it'd be really annoying to forget what these are. There we go. This is now going to be labeled B. And here is the fun part. You get to make, how many knobs? You get to make a lot of knobs. That's, you're going to make 16 knobs, I believe. Yeah. So we will set these to 1.5 size and set the steps to 6. This is going to be called the C shift. Duplicate. Right here. C sharp. Shift. I had caps lock on. That's fun. Switch your grid size. This is probably a good time too, since you get to make things look nice. Doesn't matter if they're not centered, it's fine. They just need to somewhat do something. Cool. Surface. Not surface, this. You need to allow inputs on these knobs, which I forgot to do. Just right click and press A or activate. No. Okay, these are all activated, never mind. It just doesn't show it. C, shift. You want to find the corresponding note, plug it into here, and make sure that surface 1, pitch shift, and then also plug in electrify right here. Surface, grain size. There we go. And then just like put all of these parameters in there. Surface, grain size goes to grain size, and then latency compensation goes to latency compensation. There we go. So now we have a monophonic, or not, because I forgot to turn it on. And I think I also forgot to set this up correctly. I did. There we go. So now that we have this one thing right here, we need to duplicate this 12 times. And there we go. Saved it. Okay, cool. So now we're gonna do semitones lower. So this is A sharp. You can just plug in the A sharp to pitch shift. This to electrify. Grain size. That is not grain size. Ah, okay, so this is pitch shift. Take that and put it to A sharp shift. Electrify is going to the right place. Grain size is going to the correct place, I believe. No, it's not. I see what I did. Okay. Latency compensation. As you see, this gets complicated real quick, and it's annoying to fix any form of problem here. This is why I don't like Patcher, but we're gonna make this work, and if you're like having to watch this tutorial to change one plugin, I'm sorry. There we go. That's your Pitchmap simulator. And I'm gonna save this, and Jesus Christ, what do I do? You see, I don't know. I don't understand all of this stuff, so. There you go. That's the Pitchmap simulator. Share this if you need to for someone that doesn't is about to pay money for something they can just, you know, make or download. God. Please download this and don't make this yourself, because you will run into a lot of pain. Okay, well that's it. I hope you enjoyed this or found this useful.